Welcome to this episode of the Smart Leaders Sell podcast. I'm Jess, sales coach and leadership expert, and I am really excited to dig down into today's episode. Hey, poddies. It is the end of April. I'm feeling quite excited about the end of April. I feel like the end of April is going to bode well because April as a month, always has Easter. This year, I'm not going to be eating that much chocolate because I don't know where I can actually get it from, which is probably a good thing. I will come out of lockdown and, I'll be spelt and tanned from spending time at the allotment. But I will be desperate for chocolate and, maybe even some socializing, who knows. So it is the end of April, and it's been an interesting first quarter of the year and an interesting introduction to Q2. And what I wanted to do was check in with you guys on today's episode, how you can actually be using any fear that you're feeling to drive your business forward right now. Because what I'm seeing at the moment is there's lots of content that's being created around either promoting the fear and promoting, the kind of things that are happening at the moment that aren't that pleasant or are particularly challenging, and, kind of almost promoting that fear in a way and perpetuating it, or people who are trying to allay the fear and do a lot of great work around reassurance and why everything is okay and why that's fine and blah, 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 blah. And actually, both of those things are incredibly valid. But I wanted to look at it with a different angle today because there are lots of you out there and who will be going through waves of fear around running your business during this time and any other challenging business time period, whether that's any future time period or whether you built your business perhaps in a past recession and things. You'll understand that when any kind of trauma happens in your world, you go through waves of feeling good about stuff and feeling bad about stuff. And so what I wanted to do was a more practical episode on how you can actually be using the fears that you might have right now to push your business forward, even if you feel like that's a little impossible. So I think the best way to start is everyone will deal with this differently. And I haven't produced tons of content around COVID-19 because honestly, I just don't want to add to the noise around it. There are lots more people who are way more qualified than I am, literally anybody from the WHO, to talk about the actual health impact. And in terms of a business outlook, I've been very, very transparent about what I think the realities are of COVID-19 on the business world and what I think that's going to look like. And as far as I'm concerned, this is the time to be running your business in as normal a way as possible. It's, your responsibility is to your clients, your prospective clients, to keep selling, to keep serving. And I've been pushing that message out, not necessarily relating it to COVID over the last couple of months, but it's been going out pretty consistently. And so here we are in April, and we are probably 2 months from the point that certainly in Europe, we recognize that coronavirus is going to be an issue. And there are certain things that I think we now need to look at when those waves of fear come up and how we can be using them to drive businesses forward and recognize that this is going to be the life for a little while. We're going to have these waves, we're going to have unexpected happenings, we're going to, see life start to change, what that actually means for your business. So a quick update really on what I've been doing, because I think sometimes it's quite useful to kind of see behind the scenes of what's been going on and what I've been doing in my business and whether I have changed anything or not. And the simple answer is, really, I haven't changed an awful lot in my business. Interestingly, I, at this point, will be just coming out of a launch for the C-suite, which I'm very excited about. And I know that there are lots of people out there at the moment panicking about selling and maybe putting off launches and maybe not wanting to market at this time because they're worried about how or whether or not it's going to be insensitive to the market and to how people are feeling. But actually selling is one of those things that really relaxes me. So at this point in time, I'd be just about to come to the end of my first launch of 2020. I will have put on my first webinar of 2020, which is very exciting. And it'll actually be the first webinar I think I've done in about 18 months. So that'll be cool. I will update you on a later episode as to how that goes and kind of give you a bit of a debrief about what that launch looks like. And then on the other side of it, it's about delivery. And one of the things that I've focused a lot of my time on since coronavirus came about is making sure that I'm there to support my existing clients and do that really, really well. One of the biggest mistakes that I see business owners making is that they often chase new revenue. And so everybody's always looking for new customers and new clients. And, absolutely you should be doing that because, revenue and sales are a big deal in business. But equally, we always have to look at how we actually servicing and delivering to our existing client base. Are we doing the best things by them? Are we making the best efforts for them? And that's something that I've really, really honed in on since all of this has been going on. So in terms of business changes, nothing has changed with regards to like the marketing in my business. We're still putting out the same amount of podcast episodes every month. We're still sending the same amount of emails. I'm still, albeit batching, obviously, always, but still posts are going out on social media and it's doing the job. So nothing's changed on that front. But in terms of delivery, we've been doing a lot more as Team Jess as a whole to make sure that clients are fully supported in this time. And that, is things like offering virtual museum tours for people who've got children at home and who are homeschooling. I've created extra supplementary and supportive content for my clients in programs to do specifically with sales and selling during coronavirus, and extra templates with inside the C-suite to contact proactively and do business development with companies who are being impacted by COVID-19. So actually, from a delivery standpoint, we have been on fire. And I say that with no humble pie whatsoever. We really have been, and it's been a real effort from Team Jess as a whole, and it's been really, really impressive. And I couldn't be more grateful or more proud of my team for showing up for our clients in so many different ways at the moment. And so for me, I guess the biggest change in my business has not been fear driven as much as delivery driven. And for me, business has continued much the same as normal, with some practical differences only on the side of serving our clients. And that's kind of the biggest update. Doesn't mean I haven't felt fear around coronavirus. Well, honestly, I have been in a kind of weird space about admitting this, but no, I haven't felt worried about the impact of coronavirus on businesses. And there are episodes where I discuss that and why that is. Certainly over on the Selling to Corporate podcast, I talk about why there aren't any better times ever to sell to companies. And that's why I haven't really been worried about it from a business perspective, because, the entire world is in a health crisis, but actually the entire world is trying to protect the economy. And so that makes it actually a very good time to be doing business. It makes it a time where, on a practical level, most people do have more time than ever before to actually look at what they want from their business, what kind of business they want to build. They have more disposable income in terms of being able to use some of the government's supplementary funding and support financially. And so actually, the coronavirus hasn't worried me in the way that perhaps it has other people. And there's a huge reason behind that is outside of, the fact that I feel positive about the economy, that I think that the governments around the world are trying to do the best that they can to support people, that governments around the world are trying to do the best they can to keep the economy moving. But that's because I've grown. My entire sales career has been grown in times of struggle. And so I've seen, and I've sold in genuinely challenging economical periods. And I've seen businesses absolutely soar and skyrocket during that time. And there are things that they do really, really well. And those things I want to share with you guys today, so you can learn from that. But it also reminds me that whilst we might not have been in a global health pandemic before, and it might not have impacted the world in the same scale, in recent history, we have been here in terms of unstable economies. We have been here in terms of, fears around recessive periods. And in fact, just 8 years ago, we were in a recession, a double dip recession here in the UK, and it was really challenging to sell at that point in time. And actually, right now we don't have the same concerns around that. So, for me, whilst I'm bored, I guess, of being locked down because, it's sunny and I want to be going to the pub with my friends, and I'm worried about, elderly relatives and things like that, the actual impact of it on business does not have to be hugely negative if you don't want it to. So let's just kind of start from there, start from the point of, what does fear look like in your business right now and from you right now? And what I'm seeing across the board is that lots of people are very scared because we're looking at the unknown, and that's really hard. It's why people have fears of, things like flying, or not to be morbid, but, death is quite a big fear of the unknown. People worry about situations they can't control. That is totally normal. It's totally natural. It's a completely normal and natural reaction to unknown situations or scenarios. And I think that sometimes we forget that. We forget that fear comes from that place in our brain, the caveman days of, oh my goodness, this is scary, fight or flight. And, in our caveman days, that kind of inherent, like almost survival brain would have been terrified of, dinosaurs. And it would have immediately been like, you need to run from the situation. And we forget that that's what we take into business. So our normal response when it comes to having an unknown scenario occur in a business capacity can be to run. Oh my goodness, this is happening. I should quit my business right now. I should spend less hours on it. I should immediately go out and cut all of my expenses. I should immediately get rid of my team. I should immediately, go and create tons more free content than ever before, because otherwise people won't buy. We operate from this place of fear and not being able to operate in as much control as we normally would. And that's really scary for people. But it's also something that can be a powerful motivator. And often that's not the first thing we think about. We think about the running away, we think about the panic mode, but we don't think about, well, how could this be a great opportunity? And there are 3 specific ways that it can be a great opportunity. So the first thing is, when we're looking at operating from fear, we have to look at the key problem children, if you like, the key problems that we face when we are running a business from fear. And the first thing that fear usually causes when you are running a business is paralysis. Okay, so if you've been there and if you are starting to come out of the other side, yay! Welcome to the other side where the water is warm and we're moving, we're taking action, we're having a relatively okay time, realizing that perhaps it might not be as bad as it seems, right? But it's perfectly normal for the first reaction you have, or one of the reactions that you might experience in business, is to be paralyzed. You don't know what action to take. You start overthinking. If I do this, will this happen? What if I take this action and I don't get the desired result? What if I need to pivot my entire business? Should I be thinking about that? Maybe I need to create X amount of content. And we spend so much time in this paralysis of, oh my goodness, what should I do? Of overthinking, of overanalyzing, that we forget to take any action. And then our fears come true, right? So because we haven't taken action, because we have sat in paralysis, because we have sat in overthinking, nothing happens. We don't make sales. We don't get more visible. We don't, generate more leads. We don't do any of the things that we know are integral for building our business. So yes, it's a normal reaction. Is it the best one? Is there a better way to combat it? And the answer is yes. We do need to combat that. So the first thing we need to look at is, if we already know that we are prone to paralysis, we need to be taking more action. Now, that doesn't mean going out and creating tons of content that's not relevant, or, just doing for doing's sake. It means we need to be strategic. It means that we need to assess, okay, I'm going to need to take action every day, but I may not feel like it, or I may not feel like I have the capacity or bandwidth. So, for example, those of you guys who are at home homeschooling children, obviously you are heroes, that goes without saying, but you might be feeling like you are completely paralyzed from action because you now have kids at home, and you're having to navigate situations that you wouldn't have had to spend your days on before. So sometimes, when we talk about taking action, it's not about sitting there for 8 hours a day and doing every single thing ever on your to-do list. It's about, what simple actions can I take each day that are going to get me moving forward to my goal and that are actually achievable. And I always say to people, if you can do one action each day that is a sales activity, you are going to keep making money. If you do one activity each day that's a brand building or visibility exercise, you're going to keep generating leads. You're going to be in the market. And if you do one exercise each day that's a learning and development activity, then guess what? You're going to keep moving forward towards those goals. So when we look at this paralysis piece, it's not about going out and doing completely different things, and I'm sure I'll create an episode at some point on why you probably shouldn't pivot your business right now. It's about doing things that are achievable, attainable, and that you can do in the time frame you set yourself. Yeah, sometimes that's, and sometimes in some days that's only going to be one activity a day in one category, and other times you're going to get all three done, and sometimes you're going to get a load more done. Like, maybe your kids will be outside playing in the sun and you'll be able to just kind of sit back and get an entire day of work done, which I'm sure you're all dreaming about right now. But, those days will happen. Kids will eventually go back to school. But for now, when we're trying to combat this fear and we're trying to drive our business forward, we need to be harnessing it and understanding that if we are that person who is prone to paralysis, now is the time to be taking achievable, attainable action. Just every day, consistently, small actions, will make the biggest changes. The second thing we have to look at is, when we're operating from this place of fear can cause a lack of confidence. And it's always interesting for me because we can get caught up, and we can start to, when we're operating from this place of fear, we can start to think about how we are paralyzed, how we are stressed, how we are overwhelmed. We don't always think about the knock-on effects that has on us. And one of the knock-on effects is that it produces this lack of self-confidence. And that might result in people having different symptoms. It might be that you are starting to think about whether you should lower your prices. Maybe you're having those thoughts about whether or not your service is something that's integral, or it's just a nice to have, and then you're panicking because you're feeling like people aren't going to buy it. Maybe you feel like you should be more of an expert because there's suddenly all these apparent experts on the newsfeed sharing information every day, sharing tons of free content. Maybe you feel like you should be doing more or less or whatever. That's all promoting this lack of confidence. And when we're not feeling confident, guess what we don't do? We don't sell. Yeah. Selling is one of those things that comes it comes most easily, I should say, when you're feeling happy, when you're feeling content, when you're feeling confident. Doesn't mean we can't sell when we're not feeling those things, but it just means it's easier when we do. So if you know that in this place of fear, you've been feeling or suffering from a lack of confidence, start using this as an opportunity to remind yourself of how good you are. I have a smile file, and every time I'm having a rough day, I go through my smile file, and it's the place where I've screenshot, client wins or things that clients have shared with me where they've done really well or things they were really happy about. And I look through it and I'm reminded of, I've been able to help some amazing people, and I've helped people get some incredible results. And I've genuinely, on some occasions, changed lives. And that's something I don't take lightly at all, but it's also not the first thing I remember. Especially when you're feeling low in confidence, the first thing you remember is not, oh, look at all these amazing people whose lives I've changed. It's, oh my goodness, look at my competitors out there doing X and Y, and I should be doing that. And I'm going to sit here and beat myself up and berate myself for not having the time each day to do things and not being productive and blah, 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 blah. But actually, that's the worst thing you can do. You can't drive your business forward when you're in a place of only focusing on the negative. So, practical step is to start looking at, what have I done? How can I boost my confidence? Look at the client testimonials you have, create your own smile file, go out and ask clients who are currently working with you, like, why did you choose to work with me? What was it about, my sales or my marketing or my program or whatever that made you want to work with me? Ask clients to be sharing their wins. Sometimes we can get caught up in other people's fear. And what that does is makes us feel like we should be buying into a story that may or may not be happening for us. And that can cause a lack of confidence. So, remember to get your clients to share their wins so that they are reminded of the positive things that are happening each day. Not ignoring that there are other things out there that are happening that are negative, but that they are focusing on the good, that they're trying to build their businesses or have the transformations that they're looking for in a really positive way. Okay, so if you are operating from that place of fear and you're suffering from that lack of confidence, remember, you're going to find it much more difficult to sell from a place of lowered self-confidence. So start looking at the amazing things you've done, the ways that you've supported clients, the feedback that you've got, the testimonials that you've had, the case studies that you've created, and start sharing them. Because actually sharing those things inspires other people. It demonstrates to the market that your clients are getting results, and it will help you drive your business forward in terms of revenue and brand visibility, which is always good. And it's easy, it's simple, it's not a difficult activity. Yeah. And then finally, operating from fear usually causes perfectionism. And perfectionism is a really hard thing. I am somebody who's very type A. I like things to be done a certain way. I would love it if everything was perfect all of the time. And despite the fact that I'm very well known and that I preach regularly, like, take fast action, take imperfect action, production over perfection, doesn't mean it's something I find easy to do myself. I would love everything to look pretty and perfect and to work first time and to never have issues with tech and all of that kind of thing. But I also recognize that the best way for me to run my business is to make sure that I am consistently selling. And sometimes that means doing so before things are perfect. So one of the things that I'm really impressed by at this time is the amount of people who have been caught up in perfectionism for a very long time and who are now using this time really wisely, and they are putting out fast offers. They are taking imperfect action. They are, reacting to their market and delivering paid offers in ways that perhaps they wouldn't have done before. Perhaps people are running live versions of courses instead of automated ones because they recognize their audience just need that little extra bit of support right now. And it might not be the perfect way for them to do it, but they're doing it anyway because their audience needs it more. Perhaps people are pivoting slightly, or they're offering a new service to the market and they don't have all the branding sorted yet, and it doesn't look perfect, and it's not all uploaded to a great membership portal or anything like that, but they're launching it because the market needs it, because they know that people will be served better by it. And so they're ignoring their own perfectionism in order to get something to market to generate the revenue, and they can perfect it later. That can always happen over time. So if you're somebody who recognizes that in that kind of place of fear, you're looking for the perfect offer, you're looking for the one thing that's going to sell loads, you're looking for everything to be great before you release a product or a service out into the world, take a second and just think about, does that actually serve me to sort out the website and the branding and all of the copy to be perfect and everything before I actually start selling it? Or Could I be doing this differently? Could I be doing this in an imperfect way? Could I be reaching out to previous clients? Could I be asking for referrals? Could I be upselling to an existing audience and saying, look, this is what I'm going to do. This is how it's going to benefit you. It's, you know, it's not ready yet, but I'm selling it now and I'm going to be delivering it, and it's not going to look perfect, but it is going to get you massive transformation. So the best thing you can do is buy it. You know, are you able to do that? Because anyone can write an email and create a PayPal link. And that's the thing. Don't be held back in this market by feeling like everything needs to be perfect, feeling like everything needs to look a certain way. Sometimes the best thing you can do, and a lot of the time the best thing you can do, is take that fast and imperfect action so that you can actually start, you know, creating a longer term plan. Long-term plans are much better executed when you have the cash flow behind them and when you're not worried about, you know, paying yourself or your team or anybody else. So there you go. You know, operating from a place of fear, it can absolutely be massively detrimental to your business. It can absolutely stop you doing a lot of things. It can cause that paralysis, that lack of confidence, and it can, you know, heighten perfectionism. But if you are prepared to overcome those things, there are practical ways that you can get around it, and that, you know, that those things themselves can actually help you drive your business forward, even at a time when everyone is panicking. Hopefully that's been useful for you guys. As I mentioned, the C-suite is now open. It will be open all year. So you will hear me talking about it. If you're interested in selling to corporates, obviously you can go and check it out. The link is in the show notes for you. But like I say, you know, the most important thing to think about at this time is to really assess your business. Like, what do you want to create? This is a great time in history to actually sit and look at the business that you're creating, whether or not you're happy with it, whether you would like to do other things differently, whether you would like to revamp it in certain ways, and make sure that you keep selling and keep serving your audience. I will see you in next week's episode, where I'll be sharing the lessons that I've learned from my 6 years in business. It's going to be a juicy one. You're probably going to need a pen and paper, but hopefully you can learn from all of the mistakes that I've made and all of the wins that I've had to create a business that you love and that works for you. I'll see you on May the 4th. With that particular episode on my sixth year in business. What have I learned and what can you gain from it? I'll see you there.